Request for bill introductions, Senator Clays.
Mr. Chairman, I have a bill RS 3417 establishing some guardrails for the development and expansion of homeless shelters using state funds.
Without objection, we'll accept that. Senator McGinn.
Question. So are we talking about the 40 million that was requested?
Senator Clays.
Yes, so it would have the appropriation inside of it.
So are we putting the appropriation back with guardrails?
Senator Clays.
If this bill is heard and passed, then yeah, it would be
Okay.
appropriation with the guardrails.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Petty.
Is this the same bill as the House, what with 40 million in it?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it is. I think it is a word-for-word copy of what the House bill is today.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll accept that. Next item we have is Senate Bill 514, making and concerning certain supplemental appropriations for fiscal year 24 and 25 and appropriations for fiscal year 25 and 26 for various state agencies. Committee, we did all the reviews yesterday. Is there any additions that we want to look at today? Senator Fagg. Okay. We'll start with Senator McGinn. She's ready. And
I just have the amendment, and I can have Megan pass them out. But it basically, we talked about the mental health hospital support money, and so it just adds the language to specify the funds to the different hospitals that would receive these funds. So it names the hospitals, and then I think further, that doesn't have to be in there. It'll be kind of distributed by the amount of adult beds count, their adult bed count. So they say they've worked it out, but this way we're listing those hospitals. So.
okay, so that's a motion. We have a second by Senator Clays. Discussion. Senator Petty.
So this is a question for Senator McGinn. So this looks like an expanded list. I don't believe, from what I'd seen.
Senator McGinn.
I think the reason it is they went to find what hospitals are providing those types of beds, so the same types of beds. It's not really an expansion, it's just identifying who those hospitals are. I think the reason we were confused in some of our deliberation was because you had Via Christi, asking for the money, and then you had support letters from two other hospitals, but you didn't have support letters from everybody. So this is just identifying who those hospitals are.
Senator Petty.
So Hutchinson Regional Medical Center and Stormontville Regional Medical Center do have behavioral health beds.
Yes, may I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator McGinn.
Hutchinson has 15 beds and Stormontville has 52 beds.
Thank you.
Are any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Fagg, are you ready?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Fagg.
I have a proviso on for a $2 million request that would go to help get the Greenwood County back in the horse business, horse racing. So what this is that last year it was passed in the Senate, and it's over in the House right now with 20, you're getting a copy of it to read here, 24, 23. And this $2 million would help. They have the grandstand over there now, and it's going to help do improvements and get it up, ready to run. There is no SGF funding that's coming on this, so this is coming out of the sports betting fund. And I feel like this is a great opportunity for Greenwood County. This is in the heart of rural Kansas, 60 miles east of Wichita. This is an economic development thing that would be something that would help. We all know the challenges in the rural areas for economic development. Eureka's had survived 2 tornadoes over there, and I think the community has a lot of pride. The Eureka Downs is one of the last standing in the state as far as horse racing goes. And it also is one of the first horse racing facilities west of the Mississippi River. I did not know that. So they got a real long history to that kind of thing. So when you look at Kansas today, they have horse racing in Oklahoma City and Omaha and Des Moines. So this would put us right in the middle of that. And so I think this is a time to act on this opportunity and would ask for your support. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
And we have a second by Senator Clays. Questions? Okay. Starting at the end. Any questions?
No, I support this motion.
Senator Pittman, okay. Senator Petty.
I'll just make a comment. Yesterday, this body passed on including $5 million for a public-private partnership that would affect 26 counties in the state of Kansas providing childcare. That money would be a 4-to-1 match. 4-to-1 match for, with the state dollars, a one-time $5 million, which I believe would definitely impact many more families and be economic development. And yet we passed on putting that money in, but we were going to shore up I know every community has event spaces that may or may not need assistance, this racetrack being one of them. But when we look at investment on our dollars, I just would cause the body to think we're passing up on growing on a 4-to-1 on $5 million for 26 counties, 26 rural counties in Kansas. I don't think when we talk about best use of our dollars, that $5 million is, and I would challenge that this $2 million is not as good an investment.
Senator, I'd like to remind you, we're looking at that at omnibus. It's not been removed, okay? So that money will be looked at omnibus. I don't think there's anyone on this committee that said anything about not funding it.
Thank you.
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, the location of the funds, can you go into that for a moment?
Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right now, this has to do with through the historic horse racing in Sedgwick County. There's a percentage that comes off of that. That will help do some funding, and there is a balance that is in sports betting fund. So there'll be no SGF in this deal. This will be coming out of this fund, and it was specifically set up for facilities. So this matches exactly what that fund was for.
Other questions? Senator McGinn.
Thank you. Just a couple, and you brought up one that I'm just curious about. Our sport betting funds, I think the first year it was very dismal. Is that, has that changed? Is that producing money now?
Senator Fagg.
What I know is that there's funds available in there for this. I do not know the balance in that fund, but there's enough to cover this $2 million. This $2 million is a one-time thing too. So this ain't going to be an ongoing thing. This is something to take the old grandstands and get them up to shape and something presentable that we can be proud of in Kansas when we get people from out of state coming through.
Senator Fagg.
They're saying 5 million is what's in there right now.
And
And is that fund dedicated to anything else, like mental health or whatever? I just curious, this is extra money over and above what it was dedicated to go to?
Senator Fag.
Yes.
Okay. And then I have one more
Senator
question.
McGinn.
Thank you. I haven't been over there for a number of years. I need to take a road trip, and I guess I'm going to have time here pretty soon. But I was just curious, is the structure of this facility in good, solid shape to be repaired? Like, it's not made out of wood, or is it made out of concrete? I just want to make sure that we're going to go work on something that has good structural support.
Senator Fag.
That grandstand has been there for years. I can remember going to it and going to horse races over there, and it's the same grandstands. So I'd say the structure is definitely there, the skeleton to it. The improvements are just things that need to be updated for what they need to do to get horse racing going there.
Other questions? Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I'm reading this correctly, the funds are also only used if the bill passes that enables all of this to happen. Is that correct?
Senator Fag.
Yes.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's start out with, I have a proviso regarding the Central Immersive Training Hub, and we'll have that passed out. I think it's relatively straightforward, but it is a $3.95 million appropriation. This would be a bridge to a facility that we funded last year that is under construction, and it would enable the immediate startup of the services that were going to be provided at that facility once it was built. So this includes mostly rent and then the startup costs for staffing and equipment. This would be used primarily, and the urgency exists primarily because we are going to attempt to be the centralized training location for all of the security services for the World Cup, not just the one in Kansas City, but all of the sites in Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So that is the purpose of this appropriation, and I would stand for question. That's a motion, by the way. I move the proviso language that's presumably in front of you.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? President Masterson seconds. Senator Petty.
Senator Clays, this Central Immersive Training Hub, so this 3.95, could you expand on what that's going for?
Senator Clays.
Yeah, again, the way that it was explained to me is that we otherwise have funds in place for the facility that is being built. However, it is not going to be ready prior to the World Cup. So this allows them to rent a hangar space essentially, and that would then be outfitted similarly to how the facility that we are building for a more permanent presence for this type of immersive training, so that it could be utilized for the World Cup security training. So it is essentially a bridge between those two facilities that will allow us to be the ones who do that. The company that we attracted from California did this for the previous World Cup, so this is not something new to them, and we should be able to get the majority of the security training occurring here in Kansas for all of the World Cup sites.
Senator Petty.
So as the permanent facility is being built on the Salina campus, this funding will help with securing a temporary location. Does it also cover any positions?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am under the impression that it does include some startup staffing costs for this particular event. So it would not be an ongoing appropriation for those individuals who are working there. I believe they would be largely, the staff that would be permanent there would be under contracts for the company that is occupying the space.
Senator Petty.
And again, this is a one-time?
Senator Clays.
Yes, this is one time. We have already put into the budget the ongoing that is funding the permanent facility. So this is one time, a bridge to that facility being completed.
Thank you.
Senator Pittman.
This sounds like a pretty exciting opportunity. I looked into it just a little bit. It's about simulations and security simulations that can be trained up, and they can use students at this K-State Salina campus to simulate different security environments, World Cups environments, and it sounds like it's an immersive experience. Do we have any assurance that it'll actually happen, though? I mean, do we have contracts or anything like that? I'm not doubtful that it's a great program. I'm just wondering what kind of assurances that we have as we invest the money.
Senator Clays.
They did it for the last World Cup, so I think that's the rationale that they would just continue doing it. I don't know that there's a permanent contract in place or that they contract it out each time, but this is the company that's doing it.
Senator McGinn.
So how were we picked? How was Salina picked to do this? I mean, I know we have a facility that we've begun, but.
Right. So
Senator Clays.
the company is who does it. The company is coming to Salina. They would like to locate in the hangar temporarily while the permanent facility is built to conduct this type of training. They also do training of many types. It's not just security training. They're able to recreate factory floors and bring in staff to train on factory floor simulations prior to the factory being built. They do a variety of training. So this would be among the things that they do, but the World Cup is the reason for the urgency of doing this now.
Senator McGinn.
Who owns the hangar?
Senator Clays.
The hangar that I believe they are using is a Salina Airport Authority hangar, so they would be leasing that space temporarily from the Salina Airport Authority. It's not unlike the current setup for the permanent facility. The permanent facility is actually a Salina Airport Authority property that is being renovated through Commerce. So we did that through the Commerce budget.
Senator McGinn.
I don't know if this is all rent or if this is equipment or what, but if it is equipment, will this equipment be equipment that can eventually go into the training hub that we're currently building?
Senator Clays.
Correct, yes. Yeah, it's all items that can then be moved over.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Clays.
I'm going to make a motion. I don't have this typed up for you, so my apologies. We'll just have to go through this together. So I'm going to add 78.7 million all funds, including 30 million state general fund, to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment budget in FY 2025 to increase Medicaid rates for hospital outpatient codes, and then add 157.4 million all funds, including 60 million SGF to the KDHE budget in FY 2026 to increase Medicaid rates for hospital outpatient codes.
A motion second by President Masterson. Questions? Senator Petty.
Could you say those figures again, please?
Sure, it's 78.7 million all funds in 25, 30 million SGF in 25, and then in 2026, it's 157.4 million all funds, 60 million SGF. That is to increase Medicaid rates for hospital outpatient codes.
Senator Petty.
So this is for outpatient Medicaid rate increases. And so we'll be using over through 25 and 26, we'll be using $90 million if this passes of SGF, as opposed to passing Medicaid expansion, which could triple these reimbursements to these hospitals for outpatient services. Is that correct?
Senator Clays.
We would be increasing the rates to serve the current population of those who are eligible under Medicaid, correct?
So just as a follow-up, the information that I have is that these hospitals for these same services would be getting 3 times as much money back if we had Medicaid expansion, as opposed to using, and we would not be using SGF. We would be using federal dollars, which we have chosen to not take by not passing Medicaid expansion. So now we're going past that $6 billion rate of missing money, and now we're going to be supplementing these services, paying for these services, which are very much needed. And I know that every hospital that would benefit appreciates it, but at the same time, we could be providing much more if we pass Medicaid expansion.
Other questions? President Masterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we've discussed many times with Medicaid expansion, the recent studies that have come out, because we're not guessing anymore. We've been expanded for 10 years, right? The country has. We have states that far out. And what the studies are showing is it is not saving rural hospitals. Marginally higher closure rates in the expanded states. It is not affecting the emergency rooms. It's not affecting, it's affecting them, but it's the wrong trajectory. It's going higher. And the most troubling thing about expansion is it is displacing currently eligible people. Those that are low-income mothers and children, frail and elderly, disabled, and it's just a matter of math that's being proven now in the studies, right? If you take a fixed universe of providers and add tens of thousands of new people, you displace those that are there. It's just a function of that. But we can't deny that there is an issue we need to address, particularly in our rural hospital area, and this is it, right? It is the reimbursements that will bring the greatest effect on those rural hospitals. So I strongly support the motion, and this is an answer. Now, it's a phase-in because it's, you look at the money that's in the budget, it's the ultimate bait and switch on expansion, right? It's a negative number for us this year and then grows to a massive spend in our out years. And this phases in and uses those dollars to increase the reimbursement rates for our rural hospitals, and I think that's important for us to do.
Other questions? Senator Petty.
I appreciate that information. However, 40 states have passed Medicaid expansion. We're only one of 10 states. Every state surrounding us now. Last year was North Carolina and South Dakota. No state that has passed Medicaid expansion has stopped Medicaid expansion. I could go through the benefits that these 40 states have received, and I know we would have a contradiction of thoughts here, but the facts are the facts. 40 states, we're only one of 10 now that have not passed Medicaid expansion. We have chosen to not bring in those federal dollars that are now being invested in other states to help our citizens in Kansas. But we are going to use state dollars. So, as long as our economy is good and we want to use state dollars, to help with our uncompensated care in our hospitals across the state of Kansas, I'll be supportive of that.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Clays, do you have any more?
Oh, I do.
Yes, Senator Pittman.
All right, there were a couple items I thought we might discuss, and I just want to make sure we don't lose track of those on yesterday's that we were going to review during mega budget. It's numbers 44 and 45. I don't need to do it now, but I just want to make sure we come back to those.
We can, if you want, when we're done with the provisos, we'll go back to those. 45 and what?
45 and 44, it's the farm to food, and it's the OITS extra ask for security personnel.
Okay, we'll come back to him. Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one on the Kansas Highway Patrol. You'll recall that there was a request and the governor approved $10 million for a new central dispatch location. Some of the history and background on that: the central dispatch is at the headquarters of the training academy. It is on a hill in Tornado Alley, so definitely a need there, so not opposing that. But I do have an issue with the location that was selected. So we received in your email some feedback from the Kansas Highway Patrol discussing that there is a preference for not ringing the KDOT site with KHP training items and the central dispatch. So instead of closing that off and having that sort of mixed use for that piece of property, I have proviso language here that would authorize them to purchase a new piece of land up to $900,000 from the state highway fund. Then the 10 million that we already went through, and I think everyone agreed with, for the central dispatch to be located there, and then also to consolidate some of the training that's occurring on the multiple sites, instead having a $7.5 million appropriation, all state highway fund, to also build an indoor-outdoor firing range on that site, getting it out of the northwest portion of Saline County, where it is currently located. It is, of course, not a $7.5 million facility, so there's no need to be worried that we're abandoning a very expensive piece of property. And you have in front of you some of the language that's necessary to affect these changes. The total would be 18.4 million state highway fund, as opposed to the previous agreement with the governor's office. And I would stand for questions.
There's a motion. Do we have a second? We've got a second from, right. We're going to get the second first. So second is from President Masterson. Questions? Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't catch the location. Where is it at?
Senator Clays.
So there's actually 3 locations that we're dealing with, so we are trying to create some level of consolidation. So there's the firing ranges in northwest Saline County, the road course, the central dispatch, and a evidence handling facility are in South Salina, inside the city limits. And then, of course, the main training academy and Troop C headquarters, along with the current central dispatch, are at the former Marymount College campus, which is in northeast Salina.
Thank you.
Senator Alley.
Would it be possible to show us on a map all of the improvements that we're looking at here for that highway patrol?
Senator Clays.
Yes, to a degree. So the email that you received with the Kansas Highway Patrol's feedback on these questions does have aerial shots of what exists today. The properties that are available to them are nearby. So it would just simply be an adjacent property. We've looked at what the pricing would be, and it's all in a range well under $900,000. So that's, thank you.
Other questions?
Hey, we have
Senator
the
Petty.
printouts. We're going to hand them out. It's fantastic. Just in time. These guys are ready. Staff, super prepared.
Okay, questions, Senator Petty.
Thank you. So Senator Clays, I think you said that you mentioned 18.4 million highway funds. So why do I see 20 million on here?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that the issue with what you're seeing is the capital improvement account having an increase in those line items. So it is to affect the amount of money that's necessary to. Yeah, I mean, I guess the way they wrote it was just that's where the lid is at 20. But yeah, it could easily say the exact amount if you'd like, but that's the lid. The precise amounts are down in the other part of this balloon, but I think that's the lid.
Senator Petty.
Well, I do think that, I mean, I think it's better to be more precise that with the 18.4 million, since it's transferring that amount. And then am I to understand that this 18.4 million is then removing the 10 and the 7 that were in the original budget request?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would, we didn't go forward with the 10. I believe that we held that, but if not, then no, it's not doubling it. The lid is still there.
Senator Petty.
I'm sorry. So the 7 is out, is that correct?
Senator Clays.
I'm not certain what the 7 is you're referring to. I think that was repairs to the training academy. So I think those are still in because those are a separate capital improvement request. Yeah, I'm getting the nod from staff that that is correct.
So those amounts of money are, that you said the 10 was taken out, I think you said.
Yeah, or it's replaced with this.
Okay, so the 7 is still in. This is an 18.4 million from highway funds. I don't remember now. Was that 7 million from highway funds as well, or was that from?
Yeah,
Senator Clays.
all things highway patrol or state highway fund.
From the highway funds.
I mean, largely. I guess there's some things that aren't, but yeah, it's all state highway fund.
And then
Senator Petty.
my further question, thank you, Mr. Chairman, would be, okay, there was no information about this until after if I understand correctly, until after the Commerce Committee started looking at the budget. So I'm just curious as to why this, something of this magnitude, usually we have information early and have an opportunity to really review it. This seems to be rather rushed. Is there a reason why?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, the ask and the approval by the governor and the approval by the committee process has been for the central dispatch relocating. I take issue with where it's relocating because it will essentially start creating this setup where we are placing new build in new locations across the city, and I would rather see something that's consolidated, and I believe the Kansas Highway Patrol agrees with me on that having all of these things in one location makes a lot more sense than spreading it across the city or county in the case that we're in. So if you look at the map over the current facility, you're going to see that they have a road course that is quite inadequate, that hems in then with the KHP evidence building and the Kansas Department of Transportation site. If you were to build the Central Communications Center, you would essentially close off that entire piece of land, and then the KDOT facility is sitting inside that ring of KHP items. There's then no room to expand anything there. The road course being inadequate, we'll need to find a new location eventually. The KDOT facility can't expand in any way, shape, or form at the junction of two interstates. I think we're not thinking this through in such a way that we're looking 10, 15, 20, 50 years down the road. So the wise thing to do here would be to allow KDOT to occupy that entire space as time goes on and have a separate space where the Kansas Highway Patrol can operate. It would also give them the opportunity to have a firing range that is well away from any residences or businesses that might be annoyed by such activity.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do you have another one? Okay. You want to, Fag, do one? Okay, Senator Fag.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you take out your legal size blue sheet on the state water fund, am going to have a proviso. It's not written up yet, but it's simple enough. I think you'll understand it here. When you look at 2024 Governor Rec, we got an ending balance of $3,280,000. And what I'm suggesting we do, that we take $1 million of that and increase what we do with the water project grant fund transfer. Instead of 12, it'd go to 13. My reasoning for that is that they had like 355 million applications, and this is just a drip in the bucket. And instead of having it laying in the bank, I'd rather have it out helping people in the small communities with their water issues. So bottom line, we take $1 million out of the state water fund, and we increase the water project grant fund by $1 million. That'd go from 12 to 13. That's my motion.
It's a motion. Do we have a second? A second by Senator Clays. Questions, Senator McGinn?
Thank you. I'm just curious why this came up all of a sudden. The Water Projects Grant Fund transfer, can you specifically tell me what it, who applies for those grants?
Senator Fag.
That was set up with our water. I think it's 3502, but these are applications by cities that need help with their water towers or water infrastructure, small community projects. I know when we opened it up, it was just a big number with the apps that come in. So,
Yeah,
Senator McGinn.
it's because cities build lakes, their own personal lakes, and then they don't want to pay for the upkeep of them, is my history of this, this line item here. They're getting 12 million right now, correct?
yes, that was written into the bill.
Yeah,
That was written into the bill, and we're just adding an extra $1 million to that.
written in, is there a bill out there?
No, the last year. I mean, that was like in our 5-year program, that's what we would try to do. Is the 5 million above that has to do with technical assistance where we help them get ready for improvements. And then the other one is actually helping them with funding, which would be match funding. I know of 2 or 3 projects hanging out there that need help, and they probably won't make the list. So I'm sure that the need is out there unimaginable in the small rural areas on different water infrastructure issues.
Well, and I don't have, sorry.
Senator McGinn.
I don't have a problem with water towers and sewers and those types of things, but there are a lot of towns that develop a lake for their city park, and then they want the state to pay for the upkeep and maintenance of it.
Senator Fag.
That won't be part of this.
No lakes will be part of this. It'll just be infrastructure, sewer, water towers, and that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Clays.
Let's move on to the Kansas Air Service Development Fund. This will be a $10 million appropriation from the State Highway Fund to effect a air service development program in the state of Kansas. This would allow for our airports with commercial service to draw against the fund to create guarantees for those airlines that are willing to create additional flights, additional destinations in our, I believe, 7 airports that currently have commercial service in the state of Kansas. This allows for a $2 million cap per airport that is seeking the funds to expand service. so that no one airport would receive more than $2 million for these purposes. And of course, this is a guarantee, so it would not necessarily draw down the funds unless the entity creating the new flight or the new level of service was unable to break even on that route. Do I have paper? The only edit to this paperwork that's going to be in front of you is that I'm asking for it to come from the highway fund initially here to kick things off. I believe this says SGF, but state highway fund is what we're looking for.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Pittman. Questions? Senator Pittman.
Is any of this available for, so where I'm up in Kansas City area, we have KCI Airport, or MCI. It's in Missouri, of course, and we had an ask by the general Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce to support back about a year ago a potential $5 million match with Missouri to incentivize an international route into the MCI. I think the way this is worded, it would not make it available for that type of incentive, right?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Correct. This wouldn't be available to an out-of-state airport. It would just be the airports in the state of Kansas that provide commercial service. And I believe there are 7 currently.
Senator Pittman.
Are there any kind of, I missed, I was talking to the revisor, are there any kind of guardrails about which kind of routes can be added into these airports?
Senator Clays.
No, I don't believe that there would be any guardrails necessarily. The common use of this would be, for instance, Manhattan has used a similar setup where they made a guarantee against adding a flight at a certain time. So most of the routes to our smaller airports, they seek a overnight in that city so that they can have an early morning flight to the hub and a return flight in the evening from the hub so that the more destinations are available to them. Sometimes that doesn't happen, so there needs to be a guarantee of revenue that's offered to those companies that are providing those flights. Almost all of them are captive to a single entity, either American or United, which is primarily SkyWest. And the only airport that has, I believe, multiple airlines into it would be Wichita's airport, who could also access these funds for a guarantee if they had an airline that wanted to add an additional route or provide a service that the airport deemed one that was going to be beneficial to the community.
Senator Pittman.
Great, that explains a lot. Now, you said there were 7 airports?
I believe there are
Senator Clays.
7. Yeah, I believe there are 7. So it'd be Wichita, Manhattan, the Dodge City, Garden City, Hayes. Goodness, I have a list somewhere, but yeah, they're primarily are smaller airports with commercial service. Liberal. They'll pop into my head as we go. I don't think they have commercial service, so it'd be like a United or a
Senator McGinn.
So you keep, questions for Senator Clays. You keep talking about the smaller airports, but you keep including Wichita.
Correct. So they're
Are we a small airport?
so Wichita would be the one outlier, I believe, in that it is the only one that isn't captive to a single company. So the other ones are all they either have American or United flights. Wichita would be eligible for this if there was an airline there that wanted to, and with the cooperation of the airport, wanted to expand service to a new route or a different time schedule for those routes.
Senator McGinn.
We're going to use SGF money to pay private companies to either add an airline or change the time of the airline. And then back to Senator Pittman's comment about guardrails. I'm just curious, so Delta can come in and say, we'll add a flight to Detroit or something like that, and that lasts for about 6 months, and then they take their money and quit the flight.
Senator Clays.
So the way this operates is that it's a guarantee of revenue. So if Delta added a flight to Detroit that's a hub, it's unlikely that that flight wouldn't produce the amount of revenue necessary to cover the cost. So this is in cases where they're attempting to alleviate startup costs for adding the flight. So you might have an instance where, like Hayes, for instance, wants to add Houston, which opens up a number of destinations to the people who are in Hayes, and starting up that flight and selling the tickets over a period of time becomes something where they're taking on a cost initially, and then over time it starts to break even, make money. So we're the guarantee that they will at least break even on those routes initially. And that's how the guarantees have been done in the past. Manhattan is the example here where they were able to do it as a community and put together the funds to do that. But we would like that to be available to all 7 of the airports through a fund. I would also note that many of these airports, because they have the number of emplanements necessary, are no longer eligible for the Kansas Airport Improvement Program, where we have dollars for those other airports that are rolling in. So these airports typically, sometimes, not always, have the number of emplanements that get them out of that program. So this would then be something that they could use to get additional routes that come into their communities.
Senator McGinn.
We're not going to just pad the pockets of private industry airlines, and then after the money runs out, that they're just going to leave.
Senator Clays.
Correct. So they provide service today, so these would typically be additional destinations or routes based on the schedule and time. So I don't believe that you'd be in a position where someone wants to take on a new route just for the purposes of breaking even, because that's the best they could do under this.
President Masterson.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. I thought I heard the maker of the motion clarify that it was this proviso from the State Highway Fund.
Yeah, my apologies that, yeah.
So I just want to make sure that
State Highway Fund.
vote we are casting is for this proviso, but the funding source is from transportation. It's the State Highway Fund.
With that one edit.
Thank you.
Senator McGinn.
So we just put 20 million in, I believe, to aviation from the State Highway Fund. So is this now 22 million? Put 20 million in. Didn't we move some money?
Senator Clays.
I think so the Kansas Airport Improvement Program is at 15, and that was a statutory change. The governor has been, through the department, putting in 15 anyway. So I think 14.7 million in KAIP projects were just announced. So it's the statute just now lines up with reality on that one. But that is correct.
Senator McGinn.
It will come out of that fund.
It comes out of the State Highway Fund, the 15, and it is the KAIP is a different fund name, but yeah, it's a different fund. It doesn't come out of this. And this fund, it's only if it's used. So the 10 million is just set aside. It's not something where cash starts rolling out until there's a guarantee that has to be made because the revenue wasn't there.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Clays.
Are we going to have a meeting tomorrow? Or
Senator Pittman.
We don't need to discuss those 2 line items on the purple sheet anymore, but I do have a proviso I'd like to offer. It's not ready, and I'd like to have 24 hours to get it together for us.
We will meet tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
So if it's ready by tomorrow, okay. President Masterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was also a little bit on timing, and I don't know if you're ready. I know we have the supplemental bill that we had, the 382, that the intention was to insert those contents into 514. I'd be glad to make the motion now. If we're meeting tomorrow, we can look at it tomorrow. But if you're amenable, I'd make the motion to insert the contents of SB 382 into SB 514, which had, for a reminder, I had the state employee pay plan fix, the WSUKU fix, and some language around build, but just the contents of that bill into 514.
Yeah, that's a motion, and we have a second by Senator Clays. Questions on what we're doing? Pardon me? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, yep, Senator Clays.
Nobody else wants to go? Up next, we have one for the Governor's Department and the Adjutant General. This proviso would appropriate $15,716,000 to the Adjutant General to provide assistance to the state of Texas through the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, provided that the assistance is used to assist in the prevention of drug trafficking, human trafficking, transactional criminal organizations, and other related crimes contributing to an emergency. That appears both under the Governor's Department and the Adjutant General's. It is a FY 2024 for the funding, but it is a 24-25 for the proviso language.
That's a motion. We have a second by President Masterson. Questions on this proviso? Senator Pittman.
Will this funding be available if we go in support of the federal government or only in support of a state government down there?
Senator Clays.
I believe this has us assisting through the Emergency Management Assistant Compacts, the state of Texas.
Senator Pittman.
Thank you. And so that could be the federal government who is assisting the state, or it could be the state assisting itself inside of these activities?
Senator Clays.
It's pretty clear that it's saying the state of Texas in response to a request for assistance from the state.
Other questions? Senator McGinn.
Okay, and maybe this was already said, but this is, the governor has to initiate the National Guard, right? So we're putting money in, but the governor ultimately is the one that can enact this. Is that correct?
Senator Clays.
I mean, obviously she has the line item veto, but other than that, yeah, the agency is directed to do so. So if the veto were overridden, it would require the governor to do so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Senator Clays.
You need a break. Okay, last one, I promise, for today. All right. Let's do the Kansas State University dairy. This would be a authorization for bonding $40 million, and I believe it's an appropriation in FY 25 for $3,050,000.
We have a motion, we have a second. Senator Kirshen seconds.
Sorry.
Questions? Senator Petty.
This is so Senator Clays, could you expand on this? This is giving bonding authority to build a new dairy facility at K-State, is this correct?
Senator Clays.
Yes, correct. So this would be the dairy at Kansas State University. In previous years, we have appropriated funds to do the planning for such a facility, and this would authorize the bonding for that facility and the roughly $3.1 million required for the first payment. And it is for the dairy teaching and research facility that would be built at Kansas State University.
Senator Petty.
So we're just increasing state debt, correct? Was there any thought about requesting that this be paid for outright with state general funds?
Senator Clays.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The use of this facility will be 50, 60 years, so we are amortizing that over multiple years. The bond rates are actually not unfavorable, especially under a university as opposed to other entities. So we are still in the 4% range for bonding something like this over time, and it is going to be used by many, many taxpayers over many, many years, so it makes more sense to amortize that cost.
Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Committee, Senator Pittman, you don't want to look at 44 and 45?
I thought I did, and I don't anymore. I had a clarification moment, so thanks so much.
Okay, so anything else, committee? Seeing nothing? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Senator Kirshen has a proviso.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This deals with the Geological Survey, who does earthquake monitoring for us in the state of Kansas. And every year they're allowed $100,000 allocated for earthquake monitoring. And that's what we're asking.
Is this additional funding?
It's already spoken for, but we have to authorize it.
We just have to authorize, okay. So we have a motion, a second by Senator Petty. Questions on this proviso? I'll wait till they get them passed out.
Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Okay, Senator Kirshen.
Big deal, but it isn't. But anyway, the way it's written, it says the Geological Survey account to spend not less than $100,000. Like it's an order, you have to spend that much. I mean, it don't take much to do, but if it's 100,000, it's 10 million. I'm just saying, I think language should make that clarify that that's 100,000.
Okay, so it's a clarification that it's not less than 100,000. Any other questions or clarification? Senator Petty.
Thank you. And this is to the maker of the motion. So, so is this funding for the Geological Survey, which I certainly second it, so I support it. Is it currently in the budget, or is this just clarification of what it's to be spent for?
Senator Kirshen.
I was told that we have to authorize it with the proviso. Funding for every year.
This is just clarifying that it needs to be covered in the budget?
That they have to. Okay. This was always in the bill, $100,000, that amount.
Okay, so it's been in the budget. We're just authorizing it.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Anyone else have anything? Okay. We are meeting tomorrow. We'll finish our work tomorrow and kick it out. And so with that, we are adjourned.